Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dominic Mills podcast. I am your host, Dominic Mills. I have a great episode ready for you all today, including a spectacular interview with a professional soccer player who moonlights as a sports equipment business owner. I'm going to talk a little college football since the playoff four are finally set, and we have the introduction of a brand new segment, Coach's Corner, where I discuss the latest events and the happenings of my high school basketball team and bring in other coaches to talk about their teams. So, the college football playoff four have been officially set. At number one, 13-0 reigning champ Georgia earned the one seed and will be matched up against 11-1 number 4 Ohio State in Atlanta on December 31st. And at number two, 13-0 Michigan will be matched up against 12-1 number 3 TCU. So my Buckeyes found a way to sneak into the playoff after another embarrassing loss to Michigan. The first time in my life I can say that we lost back to back, and honestly, this one was even worse than the last one. And now we have a matchup with what has been the best team in the country all year long. We're going to find out a lot about Ryan Day and the future of the program after this one. Ohio State has unquestionably one of the best rosters in all of college football. But can they finally put it all together? We haven't won a championship since 2014, and we definitely have had more than a few teams capable of accomplishing the task since. The Michigan TCU matchup is also interesting. TCU lost in overtime of the conference championship, but they still earned themselves a spot in the playoff, mostly due to their perfect regular season, which included 5 wins over ranked teams. Their high-scoring offense and Max Duggan, who I think we all became a fan of this week, will be matched up against the staunch defense of Michigan, which held Ohio State to only 3 points after halftime in their matchup. This is TCU's first appearance in the playoff and the second straight year making it for the Wolverines. While it would be amazing for both this podcast and me personally to get an Ohio State-Michigan rematch for the national championship, I'm going to be honest, temper my expectations, and say it's probably going to be a Georgia-Michigan rematch of last year's playoff game that Georgia won, which I would again expect them to blow Michigan out. I don't think that the teams match up there. They're pretty similar, and Georgia is just a better version of them. Okay, moving on to the interview. My guest today is Wilma Anderson. Wilma is a professional soccer player, although she would probably pronounce it footballer in Italy. She's also the founder of her very own sports equipment business, Wandersson Sports. We discuss her life, her playing career, her business, and much more. But first, let's blast that intro.
Cuts it back. Ohio State wins. Barry looks, fires, touchdown Buckeye. Oh my goodness! Barry Rozier, how do you do? Cousins, Ohio State, look out! Oh, you don't like that. You don't like NBA basketball.
Okay, I am here with professional footballer, pronounced soccer player in the United States, and founder of Wandersson Sports, Wilma Anderson. Wilma, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here and to talk to you today.
Man, I'm excited to have you on. So, where are you originally from?
So I'm from Sweden, north of Sweden, a small town called Skellefteå. So it's like 8 hour north of Stockholm. So it's really up there. So yeah, I grew up there my whole life, and then I moved away for the first time when I was 19. Since then, moving around a little bit.
Yeah. So, what was growing up there like? Was it like a small town, big city?
No, so it's like a small town, like 30,000 people live there. It's a very sports focused town, I would say. Like we have a hockey team that's pretty famous, and we have like just sports in general is very big. and I also played a bit of ice hockey growing up. And then,
Ooh.
yeah, and then football, of course. And yeah, then I just stuck with football at the end of the day.
Yeah. So just so the listeners can know, what are the bigger sports over in Sweden versus the United States?
So soccer, football, as I would call it.
Hmm.
And then ice hockey. We have floorball, I would say. It also depends a little bit on where you live. We have this sport called bandy. Also, it's on ice, but that's more down
Okay.
south. Yeah, and then
How
depending
does
on
that
the
work?
city, it's like it's like ice hockey basically, but the pitch is like the size of a soccer field. And yeah,
Oh, okay.
honestly, I've never played it, but it's popular in some cities. And then handball, basketball isn't that popular, I would say. But yeah, I would say those are the biggest sports. And then
Okay.
you have
So how did you
like skiing also, with the
you
winter
said
sport,
skiing?
skiing instead. Yeah.
Okay. Were you a big skier growing up?
Oh no, no. But it's very like we go with school and everything, and it's like it's a big thing. But I don't know, my parents was just never really into it, like downhill skiing, so I never got into it. And I tried it, but I'm a bit afraid of heights also, so it's not really for me.
Yeah, me too. I had some friends during COVID go and do some skiing, and there's no chance I would ever do downhill skiing. I feel like once
Yeah,
I
no.
get going, there's no way I get stopped. So how did you get into playing soccer or football? I'm
um
sorry. I'm gonna do that the whole time.
yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna refer to it as football, so you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I started playing
Yeah.
football when I was 7. I have an older sister that is 3 years older than me, and she had already started playing. And I think like young girls in Sweden, it's also just normal. Like everyone has played football at one point in their life. So no, I was just super excited to start, and then my dad coached me and coached our team until I was, I don't know, 12 years old, basically. So he has also been like a huge part of my career for sure.
Yeah. So after you get to that point where he's done coaching you, how does the it work? Do you guys have like school teams and then like club teams that you play on like year round?
Yeah, so it's a bit different from the US for sure because we play club team all year round. So the team I started in, it's called Sunano, and I started there when I was 7, and I played up until like the first team there. So I I got to the U19 team when I was around 14 years old, played there, and then eventually I got up in to the first team, signed a contract there, and yeah, so it's we don't really have the school sports like
Okay.
you
So you
do.
were on the under 19 team when you were 14 years old?
Yeah, like it was like a national league where you have teams in the first league or the second league of Sweden.
Mhm.
They always had a under 19 team, so that also their reserves, like the ones that weren't playing, they could play there too. And yeah, it just happened that we got to play there. We were pretty bad at the time. I'm not gonna lie. It's not like we were 14
That's
years
okay.
old. We're 14 years old going in there winning. No, we were really bad at the time, but it was fun to get to play against
Mhm.
like the top youth of Sweden for sure.
Yeah, and it's really cool that they do it like that because you have the different tiers, especially with different teams you get to play. It's just kind of like the only thing I could say that we have similar is like AAU teams. They're based off of similar ages like that. And if you're with like an organization, you could have a team that's got like a 8U team, a 10U team, stuff like that. Obviously, they're not that that caliber, and they're never playing in that level of stadium. But that's pretty cool. Um, I know your career is pretty young, but what would you say is your most vivid sports memory?
It's actually one. I would actually say one from when I was younger. Um, I was like 14 years old, and we had played with the same team like since we were kids. Like we all knew each other really well, and we played this cup that was every summer, and it came teams from like all over the world. Really, I think it's the third biggest tournament in Sweden, and that was our third year playing. The first year we came into the B playoffs, so the bad playoffs basically, and we just lost every game. The second year
Hmm.
we got into B, but got knocked out in the semifinals, or I don't know, but still not great. And then the third year we just won it, and it was um, yeah, it was just so nice to when you play in team sports, like the team part of it is just so huge, and like playing with the same team for that long and like knowing them so well, and then just finally making it, like there's just no feeling like it, even if it's like in a bad field in the middle of Sweden somewhere when you're a kid, but it still feels, it's just so nice feeling.
Yeah, it's got to be incredible taking a team that didn't win any games and then just a few years later winning the whole thing. I mean, and you guys kept most of the team together, you said?
Yeah, we did. But then also, I would say in general, at least in Sweden, a lot of girls, at least, they quit playing around like in their teens. So that also happened to our team eventually.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was kind of like the last hurrah for all of us when everyone was still playing.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a special memory for sure.
Okay. So, when was the first time you thought you would have the opportunity to play professionally?
Um, Honestly, I always had that dream. Like it was always like, oh, do you know when you're in school and it's like, oh, what's your dream job? Like 9 out of 10 times I would write like professional athlete. Even like for some times it was ice hockey that I really wanted to play professionally. But then it was football. And but I think I also, the club I played for, they had a first team that played in the highest league when I was growing up. So I always had those people to look up to. So it's really important to me. Um, but then I don't know. There's always a lot of like ups and downs. Um, but I don't know. I just don't think I ever stopped and was like that it's impossible. So it was just like, yeah, sometimes it really went badly and like the downs were really bad, but
Hmm.
I just always, somewhere I always felt that it was possible, and I'm just so lucky that I'm able to do it full time now. Like because also if you look at women's football, it's not like the money's not really there, but it's growing so much just the last few years. And like
Yeah.
me being able to play in the second league and getting paid, like that's huge. Because just a few years ago, you had to be like the world's best player in order to do it professionally.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So people for a long time had to have like jobs outside of playing football to be able to support themselves.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yes. So
Yeah,
it's really
it's
just a few years.
okay. I'm really enjoying seeing how women's sports, like the inequities that happen to it, are really being exposed and changed. I didn't even notice it until seeing my sister go through playing high school sports. It was just like glaring. I went to a really big high school that we had everything that we needed for the boys basketball team, but that wasn't necessarily true for how the girls basketball team was treated, and it never made sense to me. And then you see stuff like at the NCAA women's tournament last year or the year before, how their weight system or their weight rooms were set up,
Yeah.
and then I think like last week or the week before they were playing games in like a office ballroom or something like that. It was, I don't know, just kind of embarrassing, really.
Yeah. And especially if you look at the US team, like in soccer, like women's and men's, they, because it's always to talk about how much money you bring in, and obviously there is a difference. But if you look at the women's team, like the US women's team, they're the best in the world, and they bring on so much money. like, and they sell out
Mhm.
stadiums all over the US, but they still haven't gotten paid enough. And that's what's crazy. Like,
Yeah, I'm not sure how long it's gonna take for it to be set up, but I really hope it's in the next few years.
yeah.
So when you play, how would you describe your play style? I got to watch some highlights of you. You're pretty sick, I can't lie.
Thank you. Um, how would I describe myself? So first of all, I'm very tall. Like I'm 6'1",
Mhm.
like 186
Wow.
centimeters. Yes.
Okay.
So I'm very tall. And so I have gotten the question a few times if I play basketball. It's it's come up. But yeah.
Mhm.
So I play a central defender, and obviously since I'm that tall, my speed isn't like I'm not that quick at my feet. So I would say I'm better at like reading the game, and my passing play is also something I really work on and strive to be some of my top qualities.
Okay. Yeah, and there were times I when I was watching, I was like, "This is the most dominant soccer player I have seen." You're like out there just bullying people.
Yeah, I can be aggressive. That's for sure. Yeah.
I I I enjoy seeing aggressive athletes. There
Thank
are a
you.
lot of people that are physically talented that are like just bigger than everybody else that are timid. And that bothers me so much to see.
Yeah. And I mean that also has been a part of it because like I was this tall like since I was 12 basically. Like I've always been the
Mhm.
tallest girl, and when you're growing up, it's not like you don't want to stand out really. Like in your teens, you don't want to
Yeah.
stand out. You just want to fit in, you want to like so I think also at times when I was playing at that age, I was also like, no, 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 let me just like um you just want to fit in basically. But after a while I just embraced it and it's just like but in that way also football has been like my safe space because I can be like it can be an advantage to be that tall.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's definitely helped
What
that aspect of it.
what would you say, I know you said that you embraced it, but what would you say, spurned that on? Was it like a one day in practice you were just like, "Man, I'm tired of this. Like, let me just be me, show out."
I do remember one time when I just gotten into the first team, and it was the actually the goalkeeper coach, which I really liked him because there's always a bit of like it's good to have communication between like the defense and the goalkeepers, obviously. So that goalkeeper
Mhm.
coach, he was talking to me one day, and he was just like show who you are and just like step out there and be confident about it. And he was like, just look in the mirror, like just stand before the practice or the game, just look in the mirror, look at yourself and look at your height and be like, would I want to play against this? No, like, so just give them what you know,
Mhm.
give them hell,
Yeah, for sure.
basically. So that's
Okay.
honestly something I
Um,
still think about sometimes.
yeah, it's gotta be a switch that, because it like you said, it's not something that came natural because obviously, um, you don't wanna be that person that stands out at that point in time, like when we're younger, at least, I mean. Um, so you're 3 years into your professional career. How would you
Yes.
say your view of football and the way that the sport's going has changed?
I would say first of all, one thing it's really like when you play abroad, it really opens your eyes up to a different culture and just different yeah, just views on stuff in general. And I would say I hadn't realized I always knew that women's football in Sweden was like one of the best ones and like but I haven't hadn't realized that it was so much in advance like compared to other countries because like on every team I played on abroad there are girls that started playing when they were like 15 because there was no opportunity they could play earlier. And like most of the team played with guys when they were younger, but I was fortunate enough to play on a all girls team from the age of 7. So stuff like that has also like really made me grateful in what I had growing up in Sweden. And then just culture wise, there's always some difficulties, but you can also
Yeah.
see how much the sport is growing for sure. It's so nice to see.
Okay. So you talked a little bit about getting to travel. Where would you say is your favorite place that you've played and your favorite culture you've gotten to experience?
Good question. Um, so I lived in Switzerland for 1 season, and I really enjoyed it there. I lived in Lugano, which in the south of Switzerland, and it was absolutely beautiful there. And I could see myself living in Switzerland after my career.
Okay.
Um, so, but apart from football, like the culture wise, because I've traveled a bit outside of football too, and I would say Thailand is the place where I felt most at peace. Like all the people there are just so peaceful, and
Hmm.
so yeah, I would say the culture there is just so peaceful.
I've seen so many videos in the last like 4 or 5 days about how much people are enjoying their trips to Thailand, and I had never
Hmm.
considered traveling there before. So that's that it might be on the bucket list for sure.
Oh yeah, you gotta go for sure.
Okay. And what would you say is the favorite stadium that you've played in, or like what was the best atmosphere you got to play in?
Mm, um, I would say one of the best stadiums uh, was when I played in Switzerland. We played against Young Boys, and they played on the men's stadium, and that was a really nice stadium. I don't know, it must have been pretty newly built, uh, but atmosphere wise, honestly, nothing really sticks out, um, except for the games where I've like played at home, like in my hometown, because um, it's not a big stadium or anything like that, but it has the stands and it has like so many people coming at times, and yeah, that's the best atmosphere for me.
Yeah,
Because like
especially if you can
it's
have all of those people home.
yeah, and it's also like yeah a big stadium, but if you can't fill it, then it's not as fun. It's better to have like the stands and they're packed.
Yeah, I we had a game the other day and we were playing in a really big gym and all of our kids were like we're super excited about playing in the big gym. But then after the game, they're like, "Man, there wasn't that many people there, so it was really quiet.
Yeah,
You could hear the shoes squeaking the whole time." And the varsity had a game at home last night. And that's why my voice is so hoarse for the people at home. And it was packed. People were screaming the whole game, and thank the Lord some of the younger kids were there. And I'm like, this is why we play,
yeah.
to be in events like this. So I can 100% appreciate playing in a even if it's a smaller venue if you have a lot of people there.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
s- so transitioning to your company, Wandersson Sports, what led you to start that?
Um, so it's always been like on my mind because obviously, like I'm a professional athlete right now, but that career is gonna end. So that's always been in the back of my mind. Like, what am I gonna do? Am I ever gonna find something that I am as passionate about as I am with football? And it's always come up like, oh, coaching and stuff like that, but I don't know if that's really for me. And then my dad, he coached me before, but then when I came up to the first team, he was like the material guy who was just helping around the team and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I noticed that he had a problem when he was trying to order the tape and stuff like that. And so it's kind of from that the idea was born to start a company where you can buy your tape or your cones or whatever you need for your sport in one place, and it would be made for the clubs, so they can find everything in one space, and just to make it as easy as possible and have as good prices as they can, because at least in Sweden it's not like the clubs have that much money,
Hmm.
um, in most cases. So yeah, and I've really found it that I actually love it, and it's so exciting.
Yeah,
Just getting started, but it's exciting.
that's awesome. How long have you guys been? How long have you guys been working through this, or how long has it been up?
So officially, I started the company in April, and but I launched a website now in November, 1st of November, and then
Okay.
so it's new, and then hopefully from the 1st of January, when the football season kind of they start to train again, we'll have some teams to work with.
Okay. So, how do the seasons usually work? Like, what time frame or months do they usually go through?
So in Sweden, it's different compared to here in Italy, where I play now. So in Sweden, you start preseason in January, and then it's a long, cold preseason until
Hmm.
the season starts in April. So it's
Okay.
4 months of preseason. Then you have like
4 months.
scrimmages. Yeah, yeah. That's why I'm in Italy
Okay.
right now.
Hmm. How
Yeah.
do you enjoy the culture of Italy? You didn't even mention Italy.
Yeah, I do. Like, all right, the food culture and everything, and is great. There's obviously some crashes at times, but I do enjoy it here. And one thing I would say Italians are just really good at compared to Swedes is the fact that they more like enjoy every day. Like they go out for a drink or they like just hang out with their friends or whatever. In Sweden, it gets a bit too focused. Like, all right, you go to work, you go home, you go to work, you go home, and then the weekend is kind of where
Okay.
you chill. But Italians are actually very good at just like every day is they make the most of it, I would say.
Okay. So, what would you say is something you've picked up to do in your spare time while you've been there?
Um, well, now recently the company has taken up a lot of time,
Yeah, I was gonna
but
say, I'm
also,
sure that that's a lot of your time.
oh yeah, it's a lot. But I've actually started the last year, I would say. I started doing like yoga every morning and a bit of meditation and stuff like that. I also
Okay.
picked up reading a while ago, but
Okay.
just really stuff to um, just mentally in general, just to be at a good space.
Yeah, for sure. How would you say the meditation and yoga has helped you?
Um, like that all with reading also is it just makes me focus like on the right things and not just like because basically with meditation and yoga it's just that to focus on what you can control basically, and because in life there's so much things you can't control, so like it's so easy to put your energy into the wrong things. Same with sports, same with everything really, and that has just helped me to keep me grounded at times. And also, it's good to do like yoga, some stretches in the morning, get the body going,
Hmm.
mind going. So yeah.
Okay. So winding down here, give me a Swedish food I need to try, and give me an Italian food that I need to try.
Swedish food. I always get asked this question though, like, oh, what's typical Swedish food? One
But
thing
what would you
we
recommend? Not what's typical. Like if I'm trying to get into the culture and I want to try something that says this is Swedish. You know what I mean?
this is Swedish.
What would it
I
be?
One thing I would like it's just typical. We eat tacos like every Friday, so
Okay.
it's very good.
I could do
Um,
tacos.
yeah. And then we have one, it's called smörgåstårta. It's a sandwich cake.
Let me write
Uh,
that down.
and yeah, try to spell it if you can. But
say,
yeah,
say it
no,
one more
it's
time for me.
smörgåstårta.
Okay.
It has some weird letters in there too, so
All right. Google
it's
will help
really
me out,
good.
I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And Italian
So,
food, yeah, I don't know, just any pasta. I just love pasta.
okay.
So coming to
I love pasta
Italy
too.
was
I can do
perfect.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So, we were talking a little bit about your reading earlier. What is one book that you've read lately that you really enjoyed?
I would say two books that has really changed my like mind on a lot of things was Atomic Habits by James Clear. That's the most
Okay.
recent read. It's very good. It's basically just breaking things down into forming like good habits that you can do every day just to make life easier. And then Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty
Okay.
is another one I really enjoyed. So yeah, those two I would definitely recommend.
Okay. Yeah, I've actually got both of those on my reading list. I just
Oh,
discovered Jay Shetty on Instagram within the last couple weeks. I love his stuff. I have not gotten to
oh,
read
for
Atomic
sure.
Habits yet, but I keep seeing it advertised, so I need to.
Yeah, you should.
So, how would you like to be remembered?
Ooh, that's a good one. Um, I would like to be remembered as someone who, uh, like, first of all, just reliable. That regardless of what it is, like I was someone that you could always depend on to, I don't know, stick up for you or just to be there for whatever. But I would also want to be remembered as like also hopefully my company can do some good, um, just for now it's to help teams, but like there's so much room for expansion and to
Yeah.
help like young kids getting into sports, because I do think that sports is an important part of community and can really help young kids to, you just learn so much from sports, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
um, so yeah, that I would say.
Okay, that's a good answer. I really like that one. All right, last question. It's a bit of a switch up from what we've been talking about.
All right.
Um, what is one conspiracy theory you believe to be true? So it could be as simple as, see, I always blank when I say that. It could be as simple as like the moon landing wasn't real or something silly like that.
Yeah,
If you don't
I
believe any,
don't
that's okay
know.
too.
Yeah, I'm not too big into conspiracy theories, I gotta say. um
Okay.
yeah, nothing really comes to mind. I do believe the moon
Wow, that's a
landing was real, but
I do too. I do too. That was just the first one that came to mind.
yeah,
And I'm usually a skeptic on it, but it's always interesting to hear what people have to say.
yeah. Oh, I can't give you any good ones. Sorry.
Okay. All right. And so do you have anything that you'd like to plug besides your website, which I will be linking in the show notes to anybody who's looking to hop on and get some of your products?
Not really. Just to check out the website and contact me if you have interest in anything or want to talk about anything else. So yeah, hit me up.
Okay, awesome. Okay, awesome. All right, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
After the break, the first iteration of the new segment, Coach's Corner. Stick around. Okay, so today is going to be the introduction of a brand new segment on the Dominic Mills podcast, Coach's Corner. I probably won't do one of these every episode, but I wanted to include it in today's episode because our season just started, which is exciting. We had our first 3 games this week. I am the head JV boys coach and the lead varsity assistant over at Cambridge Christian High School. We've been practicing for a little over a month now. The schedule's a little different than I remember it being. I've coached high school for about 4 years before this, and I always remember the season starting earlier. But anyway, our first game was Tuesday. And I'm not from this area originally, so I have to do a lot of research to catch myself up on a lot of these high school teams. I went to high school, played high school basketball, and coached high school basketball in Tallahassee. Now I'm in Tampa. We show up to our first game and play really sloppy. The team that we were playing, they were overmatched. We ended up winning, I think, by 23. Probably could have been 40. We were able to get almost everybody on the team a bucket, and we even got threatened with a tech for over celebrating. So that's something I'm going to have to work with the boys on. So then we show up to our game on Thursday. Got about an hour and change bus ride over to Bradenton Christian. And we show up to the gym and we see people practicing, which kind of weird, like maybe it's there might be a freshman team, maybe it's the varsity when we pull up. But it turns out that the JV was practicing. Our athletic director, I called him after I saw them practicing. I was like, "Hey, are you sure we have a game today?" It was on the schedule, and he sent me back a signed contract from their athletic director saying that we were supposed to play a game. I'm sure they got it mixed up because we will be playing at Bradenton again next Friday, so they must have just thought it was a schedule overlap. So they had been practicing for about an hour and a half, and they're like, well, we can't play a game right now, but if you guys would like to hold a scrimmage, we can do that. So I agreed. The guys were a little, more than a little disappointed that we weren't going to be able to play a game, but I thought it was going to be a good chance to get another opponent under our belt because I knew that they were going to be a better team than we played in our first game. I was not expecting, however, us to just not show up. I didn't have us ready for it. I should have been able to get us together a little bit more, but we just came out sloppy, came out slow, and they thumped us. It was ugly all around. We had everybody come in. It wasn't a great performance. It didn't look good on me as a coach. A lot of parents were upset, but we were able to show them that it was their fault, so we ended up being credited with a win. I don't usually like to count forfeits as wins, but at that point we're 2-0. We have a game the next day, and it's more important that we get a quick turnaround so we can finish the week off strong. So our game Friday goes in, and it's back and forth most of the first half between us getting about a 10-point lead and them cutting it down to, I think they cut it down to 2 at one point in time. They actually took the lead in the first quarter after we jumped out to a really fast start. And then halftime started, and then we decided we were just going to press them the whole rest of the game. They weren't handling our pressure really well, and I've got a couple guys that play passing lanes incredibly. Hopefully I can get the team on the podcast at some point in time. We end up going on we end up winning the third quarter 18-3. So we blow the game wide open. We're up by like 17-19 going into the fourth quarter again. And at that point, it's just about keeping our foot on the gas. So we're keeping it about that until there's about 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And I go to put our bench in. There were 3 minutes left and we were up by 18 or up by 19. And I'm thinking the whole time I wanted to get my bench in earlier because I played 6 guys almost the entire game. and 3 minutes left comes in, or 3 minutes left. I put my guys in, and they keep their starters in and press. So they cut the lead down to 12 with just under 2 minutes left. And I'm not going to lie, I panicked and I put the starters back in, and we ended up finishing out winning by 11. But I'm a little disappointed in the fact that I folded that quick. I want to be able to get our guys in more. So we've got a really talented team. We struggle with some of the little things like moving the ball side to side on offense, being patient. But I think by the end of the year, we're going to have a team that's really capable of doing something. Okay, we've got 3 games again this next week. So I forgot to mention the JV is 3-0. The varsity's had 3 really tough games. They've gotten so much better in every game, but they are 0-3 at this point. We had their game on Thursday, so rewinding. After we got our butt kicked in our scrimmage, we were able to get back to the gym just in time for the varsity game to start. So since I'm the varsity assistant, I'm sitting on the bench with coach, and game goes by back and forth the whole way. And in private schools, you can play kids that are in 8th grade, 7th grade. And so these guys have this backup point guard that's got a really nice shot, but he's like 5'2", 80 pounds. And varsity's best player is I don't want to disrespect Luka Doncic, but he's a Luka Doncic type. He's a physical wing that plays at his own pace. So we're down by 3 with just under 10 seconds left. He puts a move on the kid, gets space, whistle blows as he's as he's shooting the ball. Offensive foul, shot falls. Honestly, really heartbreaking moment for them. And a call you just can't make at the end of the game. I'm not going to be the guy who goes on his podcast and complains about high school referees, but you can't make that call right there. So we got 3 games this week for the varsity to turn things around, which I'm sure they'll do. They have so much talent on that team. And for our JV to hopefully continue things, keep it strong. We got a game on Tuesday against Redeemer Christian, and I'm really we'll be hearing from this pod. You'll be hearing from me again soon how we're doing. Okay, that is all for this iteration of Coach's Corner. That's a really quick 8 minutes. I enjoyed that. We'll see how we go with this moving forward. Okay, moving on to the closing. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Dominic Mills Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to leave a 5-star rating or review. All of the links to Wilma's company and her book recommendations can be found in the show notes. If you can, please give the show a follow on Instagram and TikTok at the Dominic Mills Podcast. That is all for me. Please make sure you stay safe and stay curious.